I've been noticing something in the binge eating recovery community. There seems to be this misconception that if you can achieve a binge-free streak, that this is the strategy for achieving binge eating recovery. However, if you are someone who is really focused on having a binge-free streak, you're going to want to watch this video to learn more about why this actually might not be a great strategy and how it might actually be maintaining your binge eating over time. On this channel, you'll learn the science behind why you overeat and tangible take-home strategies that you can use to improve your relationship with food and your body. If this sounds like just what you need, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell in the top right corner so you don't miss a video. I publish new videos every Wednesday. I'm Meredith Mackenzie of Parallel Wellness. I'm a registered clinical counselor and intuitive eating coach, and I've helped hundreds of women to repair their relationship with food in their bodies so they can go forward and live more fully in their lives by being able to be more tuned with their hunger and fullness cues and not feeling out of control with their eating. Now, I totally understand why you would think that having a binge-free streak and having more and more days without binge eating would seem like it was working, right? It makes sense that if there's something you want to stop and you're able to stop it over a consecutive number of days, that feels like you're more in control and like you have this figured out and maybe you're not going to binge anymore. And that's really hopeful and it helps you feel really good about your recovery journey. However, one of the big problems with this is that we start to think about these things in kind of an all or nothing way. And what I mean by that is that we're either binging or we're not binging. And we see that these two things are very separate and that binging is considered the bad or unwanted kind of state that you don't want to be in, and not binging is the preferred side of things. However, what this does is it actually ends up setting you up for a lot of desire and cravings for the food that you typically binge on, right? It's almost like you're telling yourself, well, I don't want to eat those foods because those are my typical binge foods, and so I'm staying fully away from them. And unfortunately, the tension or the cravings just increase and increase and increase. And so often I will see, especially when I'm reading in the intuitive eating or the binge eating forums, that people really want those foods and they end up feeling like they're a failure once they end up eating them and they end up binging afterwards. The other challenge with a binge-free streak and this all or nothing kind of mindset is that it really puts the value on not binging. And I get it. You don't want to binge, so that feels like the better solution. However, when you're in recovery from binge eating, it's actually quite normal to have a few days without binging and then binge, and then have a few days without binging and then binge. And then gradually, yes, you improve and you're not binging as frequently or they're not as intense every time, but that's not really necessarily the most important part of this. The important part, rather than just, completely stopping and cold turkey not binging anymore, is to learn about yourself, to learn about your emotions, to learn about, your cravings and your fullness and your hunger cues and all of the things that you tend to really push away because binge eating feels so overwhelming and scary. But there's so much learning opportunity in these binges. And so when you kind of go into this all or nothing mindset of, I can't binge anymore, I have to stop, you miss out on those opportunities to learn about your binge eating recovery. And then for that reason, you're more likely to continue to binge in the long run. The other challenge with these binge-free streaks and this all or nothing thinking that we get set up with is that it tends to also devalue life events, right? Stressful things are going to happen to all of us. It's something you can't control. It's often something you can't predict. And if you're not aware that binge eating is something that you use to cope with your stresses or how you feel about these different situations, then the next time something pops up and you end up coping with binging, then you feel really negatively about yourself and you feel like you're a failure, you've broken your streak, when really, again, that life event, that stressful thing that happened to you gave you a lot of information about, what it is that's important to you in your life, what it is that really hurts you or causes you stress, and how you can maybe learn to cope with those situations in a different way. But you tend to be more focused on, dang it, I binged and I'm so upset with myself. And so that starts its own negative cycle rather than learning from the opportunity. The second challenge with trying to really achieve a binge-free streak is that it tends to set you up into this restriction type of eating, right? So a lot of people will say, For me, not binging looks like not overeating, not pushing my fullness, really sticking away and staying away from those foods that, trigger me to binge. And so you either go, or maybe both, go into this mindset of reducing your portions or really trying to eat clean, or very much staying away from the foods that you typically binge on because you have this maybe mental restriction that's going on. So restriction, we do know, leads to binge eating in most cases. And so the more you see the strategy for you achieving this binge-free streak as needing to restrict or needing to pull away from those foods or be very careful with your eating and clean eating, and very much watching your portions, you kind of go back into a mindset of dieting. And this is really just going to set you up for binging down the line. Now, I have a video on this about the binge eating cycle and why you binge. And so if you're interested in learning more about that, just click the link right here and you can watch that video after this one. Now, I've kind of mentioned this already, but I see learning as such an important opportunity when you're in recovery from binge eating. And so many opportunities come from those moments. And so when you are trying to go for a binge-free streak, it's like you're trying to separate yourself from binge eating. You're trying to say, I don't want this in my life anymore. I reject it. I don't agree with it. I don't want it to be a part of me. And you really push it away from yourself. And again, by doing that, you tend to detach yourself from all the things that contribute to your binge eating. Your emotions, the way your body feels, the environment that you live in, the stresses that are happening in your life, all of those things that do contribute to your binge eating that are unique to you and things that you really truly need to learn about so that you can understand yourself and how you respond is so important. And so rather than going on a binge-free streak and trying to just keep it as I didn't binge today, hooray, gold star for me, focus more on what did I do differently? How did I cope in that moment? How did I do something different rather than, giving into the craving right away? How can I change my behavior or really focus on my emotions or my body in this moment so that I can be more supportive of me and do more self-care rather than just saying I'm not binging today and seeing it more as like a tick box or something that's external to you. Try to really focus on yourself in that situation and what you're doing right. If you have ever attempted a binge-free streak, I want to know what your experience was like. Did you find that it was something that was helpful for you? Or did you notice some of these things that I'm talking about in this video today and realize, yeah, maybe that didn't work out the way I wanted it to? So let me know in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear about your experience. Now, I'm going to keep going on this train about how binge eating is actually a way of learning about yourself and learning about the things that cause you stress and how you manage your stress in those situations. And it probably sounds counterintuitive, like why would I want to continue to binge this thing that is so uncomfortable to me, makes me feel like such a failure in my life, makes me feel like I'm being held back from all the things I want to be doing, and just really stuck. Why would I want to even dig into that and go there? And I know that doesn't sound like it makes any sense, but these are opportunities for you to learn about yourself and what it is that triggers you, what it is that you might need, because oftentimes when we binge, there is an emotional component where we might have needs that are going unmet. There are aspects of our lives where we feel unsatisfied or that we feel the sense of emptiness, and binge eating is a way of fulfilling that. And so often my clients will say that binge eating is actually a comfort to them and that giving it up can be really challenging. And so learning more about what it is that you find comforting about binge eating and the needs that it helps you meet for yourself is such an amazing learning opportunity, as uncomfortable as it is, as uncomfortable as it can be to dig into those very personal sides of yourself and to even recognize that binge eating, as horrible of an experience it is, it can provide some positive experiences for you as well. And finally, the one of the biggest reasons that I really, struggle when I see any of these posts about binge-free streaks, or I hear a client talking about wanting to go on a binge-free streak, is that I predict, and I've recognized when people come back and post about how their binge-free streak went, that it sets them up for shame. Right? For one, you're so proud of yourself when you're not binging, right? You feel like I've got the handle on this, I have control, I'm doing things effectively, and you want to give yourself a pat on the back. And it feels so exciting that maybe now I have a step into recovery from binge eating. And yet when the binge eating streak finishes or if you end up binging, it can just feel like a ton of bricks has fallen on you and you feel like a complete failure. And the shame that just piles on after that, rather than being self-compassionate for, wow, I've been working really hard on this and being really intentional with how I approach food and my relationship with my body. And yes, I had a binge and this was a blip and now I'm going to learn from that experience. So many times I will see people say, I messed up. Like, I don't think I can ever get over this. And it just feels like such a heavy, stone in the path that they're not able to pass it. And so for that reason, I just think that the mentality around binge eating free streaks is just something that's not exactly the most healthy for anybody, because it does have that all or nothing connotation of I must be doing this streak in order to really be excelling or to be doing well with this. And what I like to do more so is to encourage my clients to take an approach of, progress. What are you doing differently? Like I said before, what are you doing differently every day that is helping you? And maybe you still binge every day. Maybe that's a possibility. And I know that probably scares you to hear me say, but maybe even if you're still binging every day, that you're doing things differently. You're coping with your emotions differently. You are, thinking about your relationship with food and tuning into your hunger differently and your fullness cues differently. And so that binge might be this much different than it previously was. And yes, it's not a complete day without binge eating, but that learning opportunity and that self-compassion that you can have for yourself to say, yes, I binged, not my favorite thing to do. I would like it to be different, but I'm accepting that it's happening right now and I'm going to try to work through this and work on it with myself is so key to recovery. And so shame is not going to get you anywhere. I've said it before and I'll say it again. You cannot hate your body into being something that you love. And so I really hope that this bit of information here about binge eating free streaks or binge free streaks can give you something to think about and reflect on, and maybe approach your next attempt at recovery in a different way. So what can you do instead of trying for a binge-free streak? Well, I have a video on that. So click up here and you can watch my video on what to do after a binge. These are going to be steps that you can take, super tangible, put into action today, that you can take to help with your recovery. And like I said, make those very small incremental steps that will mean so much in the long run of your binge eating recovery. So I hope that I've inspired you to reconsider your binge-free streak, and I hope that you've learned something valuable today. Now, I don't want you to leave without getting my freebie. I've included a link in the description box down below to my free quiz that you can take and help assess where is it that you're getting hung up in your relationship with food and your body. And there are some specific key areas that you might not even be aware of that might be contributing to why you binge eat. So this is a free quiz that you can take to learn more about yourself. And if you are on a recovery journey, take it now, take it today. And then in a couple of weeks, even a couple months, take it again and see how much you've improved. Look at your scores, look at how you're doing. And I think this is a really nice way to, tangibly assess how you're doing and also give you areas that you can focus on to help your recovery. And if you've gotten anything from this video and you've watched any of my other videos and you're thinking, okay, I'm ready to take that next step, how can I make my recovery something that's a reality for myself? I invite you to book a call with me so that we can chat to see if maybe working together might be a fit for you and I, and see if you might be a good fit for my One Body to Love program. So I've included a link in the description box down below where you can go and book that call and learn more about how I coach women in my small group program to really use an intuitive eating approach and a health at every size approach to recognize their hunger and fullness cues, to work on, really great tangible strategies for managing binge eating, managing coping with emotions, and also get support from one another. So I hope to hear from you soon for that. If you found this video helpful, give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a video when I publish every Wednesday. Now go ahead and share this video with anyone that you think might find it helpful to learn more about binge-free streaks and how it might actually be tripping them up. And I hope that you have a wonderful day.